So yeah.
Coffee. All right, everyone. I'm so excited. Okay, so this is one of my favorite people on earth of all time, and I'm sharing her with all of you, so you're welcome in advance. So this is Ms. Patty Lennon, and Patty is not just any mystic, not just any psychic, not just any best-selling author, not just any creator of the most amazing oracle deck there is, not just the founder and creator of the Receiving School and the Space for Magic podcast. Patty actually has a really interesting background. So you were one of the youngest or younger VPs of
Mhm.
Citigroup, right? Back in the
Mhm.
day, doing the
Mhm.
hustle, working the finance system,
Female.
female. Oh my gosh, so that's even, I mean, what are the
No,
chances?
like I wasn't younger. Like I was one of the youngest female VPs. Yeah, because I'm
And
back
that
in
didn't
the
happen,
day.
okay, back in the day. So incredible. And also has a master's in psychology.
Mhm.
What? And then when did you become a psychic in full? Do you think that was always with you? Or I remember you had like an awakening, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that before we go into the discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say what I was told afterwards when I was like 2 years down the line of exploring the gifts that I had was that I intentionally muted them until the age of 35 because most of my work would be helping other people bridge into a space of owning their gifts. And if I hadn't understood what it is to walk through the world without access to the gifts or with those gifts muted, I wouldn't be able to build the bridge for most people. So,
Mm.
yes, I did not have access to my gifts until I was 35. And it was a soul choice that was part of my life path. Um, yes, that.
Yeah, and then you kind of made the jump and you had two kids, right? And you figured out along the way. And do you think that, I mean, it feels very poignant to right now because I feel like a lot of people are waking up to their gifts. Can
Yes.
you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, and just to answer your original question, the way that my gifts woke up, because it's usually a point of curiosity for people,
Mhm.
is it really was, I was in a group of people who were way more open. Like, at the time I was super cynical. I was at like a retreat in the desert and one of the activities we were doing was bending spoons and mine bent right away. And people are like amazed by that. But the thing that people don't know is it's way easier for a cynical person to be guided through spoon bending and succeed than it is for someone who wants it to happen. Because I was just like, whatever. So that was like my 100% energy, whatever. So all of a sudden I just started to know things about people and because we were in smaller pods, because of the context of why we were there, I shared what was happening. And then through that community, uh, and sharing and being affirmed that what I was getting was accurate, all of a sudden my gifts start to open. And
Mhm.
that happened for a year and a half until the point where my mom got cancer. And that was a 3 year journey until she eventually passed. And so it was a combination of the gifts open
What
and
do you
then
mean
you
by
go,
gifts open? What did you experience?
um, looking at someone and knowing that their shoulder problem was actually a relationship. They were there and they were having shoulder issues. And so they were talking about it. And I immediately knew in her job, she carried a bag, and the weight of this job was actually the chronic pain. And so when I asked her, and I didn't know what she did for a living, but I said, I just keep seeing this satchel at night. It's so heavy on you, and you want to be free from it. And she was an administrator in the school system, but she didn't want to step down and go into what she wanted to do because her husband had chronic illness and she didn't want to lose the healthcare benefits. And so the burden of that. So it was like that kind of thing.
So it was
I
like a
immediately
knowing.
knowing, right? Yeah, claircognizant is my primary gift. And then clairsentience, which is feeling, is my secondary gift. So a lot of times I'll feel that there's information, but then I'll know it. And that's generally how it comes for me.
Wow.
Okay, so wait, you said another question and I went backwards, but go
Yeah, no,
ahead.
people right now are probably thinking a little bit like they're going crazy. I know we're getting lots of thoughts, we're getting lots of feelings. It almost feels like, when you have shingles and your nervous system feels exposed, but it's like our psychic system. And so it's like so many things happening. Some of it is like we're clearing karma, right? Some of it we're, like really healing the collective consciousness. We're moving into different, there's so much stuff happening. But
Yes.
specifically, are people really waking up? Are people waking up to their gifts? Are people waking up to their past lives? What are you sensing is happening specifically to people who are like, I think I'm going crazy?
Yeah, so when we're filming this, can we talk about when the date that we're
Yes.
filming this? Because I think it's meaningful when people look back, and whenever you're watching this, you may be able to look back on this time. This is April 1st, 2025. We just crossed over eclipse season. This eclipse season was a doorway, it was a threshold. We had been being prepared for that threshold. I don't speak to that from an astrological standpoint at all. I don't claim any expertise in that area. I was given those dates of the March 21st to the 29th, not realizing it was in the middle of eclipse season, but the eclipse was supporting this. The veil was thinned at a level that has never happened before. And what people are experiencing now are tremendous synchronicities, awarenesses of their truth. And when I was preparing to come to this conversation with you, I told you, I asked, was there any body of channeled wisdom that specifically wanted to be the primary voice today? And the answer was no, it was whatever got pulled through. But I was given a message, which the reason people are confused right now about what's going on, because they are clearing the lifetimes of karma right now. And by simply experiencing the fear or the pain or the confusion or the shame and allowing themselves to hold it, and by hold I mean not hold on to it, but just be with it rather than tamp it down with some kind of numbing agent, which no judgment, use them myself, love me some chocolate, love me some wine. Uh, that what is being happened right now in this particular time is we are being pulled out of the ghost lands. And that was the term that was given. We are
What's the
being pulled.
Ghostlands?
I'm getting goosebumps just what?
What's the Ghostlands?
The ghost lands are any experience you have of a time in front of you or behind you being better than the one you're in. And the way it shows up in our Western society is when I achieve this or when I make up for that, right? That's a huge, very practical experience, a lot of people. And what's happening is the rumbling right now is so intense that you cannot keep telling yourself that bullshit. You cannot keep telling yourself that bullshit. This is the moment you have to work with, and it's perfect.
Perfect.
You can have everything you desire, and it is not necessary for your happiness.
Ooh, can we move into a little bit of your practicality? Because today, right before our session, I got the news from the New York Times that said, the Fed is already cutting, was it 1,000 jobs or 10,000 jobs? I can't remember at this point of federal healthcare workers, right? And stuff has been happening that has gotten people pretty scared about the shakeups in government and structures that we thought were real. It was time for a change. But holy crap, this is kind of terrifying. And it really impacts people's jobs. It impacts the economy. Everyone's preparing for a recession. And so when we are being pulled out of the ghost lands into this reality that feels very scary and unstable, what can we do about that? Is there really hope? Do we have to just like
Well,
be
I
anything
think the
else?
ghost lands, the way that that unique situation you just described embodies this, how you're getting pulled out of the ghost lands is you said some things that were true, and then you said some things that were beliefs.
Ooh, what's
Like
that?
people are preparing for a recession. Really? Who? Who's preparing for a recession? I'm not being uh what's the right word? Like, I'm not delusional. I get it. Like, I just heard that our local crystal shop is having a really hard time. Their readings are going way up, but like their actual sales of product is going way down. Yes, people want advice and they're afraid to spend money. I'm not confused that there are people who are readying themselves for a recession, but that statement is the ghost lands
Ah, yeah.
preparing for a recession. Okay.
Mhm.
Can you do anything about that? Can you realistically do anything about that? Healthcare workers are getting let go. Again, if you're one of those people that got let go, or you're in a loving relationship with someone that got let go, I get that that's very painful. Please understand what I'm about to say is not meant to discount your pain. Your pain is very real. Your pain is not part of the ghostlands.
Is that
But
part of the karmic
everybody,
stuff? Could it be part of the
what?
karmic stuff? People
It
feeling
could
pain right
be,
now?
but there's actually what I'm being shown is a lot of jail doors being opened, like people having been in jail and like being released. It's scary AF because when you're in a government job and you were raised to prefer government work and government contracts, there is a belief about what safety is and what safety is
I know
not.
now they're released out of captivity, right? And
Yes,
freedom can feel very scary.
very scary.
Hmm.
For everyone else, what you believe this is going to come to mean is a belief system. And it's about you projecting into the future a lack of safety you would prefer. And so, in that moment, when we are being bombarded with all of these ways that our future safety is being removed based on beings we perceive to have more power than ourselves, once it happens at a level that is so extreme, which is where we're at, you can no longer keep holding on to the gossamer threads of all the fears of the
Yeah, or
ghost.
external power. My
Yeah,
power belongs to my job, belongs to the
you have
government,
to be
belongs to.
here.
Hmm.
You have to be here. And what are you going to do with what you actually know? And by the way, for people who are, and I'm talking about myself here, kick the can up the road of certain worries of like, I'll get to that when. I am not doing that anymore. I find myself behaving very differently right now as a human, where I'm putting the time and energy into cleaning up stuff that I just kept pushing forward. And I'm intentionally being general about what I'm saying because the minute I give you specifics, you, the listener, you're going to start to judge your own experience based on what I'm doing, and that's not important. Yeah, go ahead.
Could I ask you a specific question?
Hmm.
So what about people, for example, who are concerned about their retirement? And let's
Yeah.
say they got fired or, whatever, there's a lot of fears coming about, stocks and all that stuff. So what if you're scared about your retirement? Is that imaginary? What do we do with that? Maybe you're approaching
Right.
retirement.
No, it's not imaginary. Your fear is your fear.
Hmm.
However, there's the immediate shock of something has shifted and it's going to impact me. And then where do I have self-efficacy? Where do I have sovereignty over my experience? Where do I have agency over what's happening?
So that's bringing that into the
That's,
now.
yes, those are the energies of, they're the antithesis of the ghostlands.
Hmm.
So helping each individual understand that they have agency within themselves and that, and this is going to go, we're going to walk right along the side of spiritual bypassing, but then we're going to pull it back. Let's say you are that person. You've been working hard your whole life. You've been saving for your retirement. Now, the S&P is going down, the stock market's going down, right? And you're seeing what you believed was going to be, the benefit of all of this work receding, right? Now, first of all, from a real basic standpoint, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to put my old banker's hat on. I know it feels really bad right now, but we all know how this works. We've been here before. We have
Mm.
been here before. I know the external conditions look kind of kooky and crazy. I'm not saying it's not going to change, but recessions have happened for as long as they've happened, and there are recessions, and there's W recessions, and there's L recessions, and we don't know which one if we're even heading into one, but cycles happen. And so, the stock market flows on a 10-year cycle. And if your money is in a place in the stock market that you can't leave it for 10 years, then you need to make certain decisions. So I'm just going to say that. And now coming back to the spiritual, what if you don't need a retirement account to look a certain way, to co-create the experience you want? What if these material creations that you have gathered around you like a squirrel with nuts are keeping you from having your personal and direct relationship with the creator, right? Whatever word you use for that, with the divine, with the universe, both within you and outside of you. And that is the place we're headed to. And so, anytime there's something in the future or in the past that's keeping you believing that's your safety, or it's keeping you from your safety, it is a barrier between you and your relationship with the creator. And your relationship with the creator is simply that you are the creator, like you are divine. Now, I don't claim to be there 100% of the time. I think I may have gotten to like 51% of the time, but I haven't experienced a big crisis recently, so don't hold me to it. Where I know I can make anything that is truly of love, right? Now, you can't manifest something that isn't for your highest good, no matter what any movie or book tells you. You just can't,
Mm.
right? But if it's for your highest good, you can call it into you now in this moment, which also means every mistake that you made in the past with money, with your kids, with relationships, with love, with your body, with God, with whoever that you think has now set you up to have a lesser experience in the future, delete it. Delete it in this moment. Today is day one, and you get to create going forward. Period. End of discussion.
Mm.
And that's what the chaos is making available to people.
Mm. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of just safety because safety means that you trust yourself. It means that you're operating from this really divine baseline of not fear, right? Basically. And when you said, trust in the creator, it's really at the end of the day, you're trusting in yourself. You're trusting that no matter what happens, what whispers of whatever destruction, financial collapse happens, you're like, okay. Well, I know if I'm sitting in this present moment, feeling all of my feelings and able to understand and separate, okay, this is just fear of the future, which I don't even know, it's not definitive, right? But then choosing to be present and choosing to call your power back. And it's like, if I really believed that I am sovereign in my life, if I really believe in a higher power. And I think some people, for me, like I do think there's a higher power, but it's much easier for me to believe in my connection to a higher power and for me to believe that, okay, there are actually physical things that I can do in terms of planning or whatever it is, right? In terms of spending, but there's also supernatural things that I can surrender or receive because these are like big picture things about, again, retirement, or I know some people are wanting to buy a house. I know some people are wanting to get married, or can I have this kid? Is my body safe? Right? These bigger picture things. How do we deal with the bigger picture stuff? Do we have to? Is just feeling safe in our souls enough?
Yeah, so the one thing I will say that needs to precede any other conditions that we talk about is you must get off social media. You
Oh,
must get off social media,
I
and you
agree.
must get off mainstream news media. You must. if you want to experience that internal safety.
Why is
I'm
that? Why
not-
is that?
yeah, I'm not suggesting you have to do this, and I'm not suggesting that if you don't do it, that somehow you're failing some divine test. You're not at all. It's just that your biggest barrier to that safety is your mind. It's your brain, and it's the fear aspects of your brain. So your brain runs blood flow to different parts of your brain based on what's needed, right? We know that the fight or flight response is that our blood flow shifts out of our brain into our limbs so that we can run faster, right? And so you can't think properly when you're in fight or flight. We know this. And then there's freeze and fawn and all those other experiences that are, a lot of people are experiencing on a regular basis, right? So if that is what's activated in your brain, the higher thinking part of your brain, let's say you're listening to this and you're like, I don't believe there is a God. I don't know about this whole universe. Like, what if it's just us? Okay, let's say it's just us and you've got your brain to work with. You've got the really high functioning part of your brain, this prefrontal cortex, or you've got the fear brain back here. So, social media and mainstream media are designed to activate that hungry fear impulse. So,
Mhm.
if you're consuming that, if you're eating that through your eyes and your ears and you're digesting that, you're amplifying, you're just turning the dial up and up and up on your fear brain, and which means you're naturally turning it down on your higher thinking. So you need to make a choice. Like, how much of your higher thinking do you want access to?
Hmm.
And it's completely within your control, completely within your control. But what you will find is when you start to step away from them, there's something pulling you back in. There's something pulling you back in. That awareness will show you how the lower vibrations on the planet are separating from the higher vibrations, and they are just working really hard to keep people from moving to these higher vibrations. But all you have to do is just keep, um, oh, what's it called? Like when you come off of a drug or an alcohol, like your
Yeah, your withdrawal, your
withdrawal. Like you
yeah.
just have to go through withdrawal. And there's a real withdrawal. There's a dopamine withdrawal that has to happen. But the thing is, the dopamine receptors shrink really quickly. So when you're hungry for that hit that you get by going on social media, that's because your dopamine receptors are quite large. Dopamine receptors, the more they get hits, they get bigger to absorb the hits. Well, the less hits that come, then they naturally start shrinking. But that edginess you feel like you're missing out is the energy of your dopamine receptors shrinking. Similar to if you, and I'm raising my hand, overeat and then you decide, like, I'm really going to let go of this habit. I'm going to feel my feelings instead of using chocolate. You will get hunger pains at first. You'll like, there'll be an ache, but that's your stomach shrinking, not telling you to go below a normal calorie amount. But, if you've been indulging a lot and then you take yourself out of that indulging, at first there's some ache, there's some pain because your body needs to adjust, right?
Mhm.
So, okay, I feel like I need to get off my pedestal on this one.
Wait, but for
But there's,
neurodivergent people who like really just need dopamine, it feels like to survive, is it a good idea to replace? So I was actually going to do this, and this conversations make, every time I want to check my phone, I'll, do some squats or something, replace it with something healthier. And that feels like a strong, like a good pathway to coming off that fight and flight response on social media.
yes, that is such a good one. And what's also coming to me is depending on your neurodivergence and depending on what brings peace to that, um, what they're showing me is organizing a closet, but not doing it in this very active, like hyper way. It's you take out one pile of towels and then you're practicing at coming up with the best folding method for your towels. And so you're going over and you're working with like one towel. Like I'm seeing a Gap store back in the 90s, and it used to be like the biggest job of the Gap store to fold the t-shirts perfectly. And the goal is not perfection for you as a neurodivergent person. It's to engage the different patterns
Yeah.
and figure out which pattern actually sits inside your body better.
Right. Yeah, it's energy work, but it's also physical meditation is what it
Yeah.
feels like, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so then you're talking about um so getting off of social media, which feeds this part of our brain that we don't want active, and and then what? Because we're talking about these kind of supernatural things, and you mentioned manifesting and all of that stuff, and we can have the manifestation that is in our highest timeline. But sometimes we're like, well, is it really happening? Am I doing the right thing to manifest my highest timeline? And then we can get sucked in, right, to that
Yeah,
fear.
into that fear spiral. But what's happening right now is manifestations are happening at warp speed. And it will happen at levels like you can't even imagine. Now, if you're looking at, I want a child and I've had trouble getting pregnant. I want a house and I don't have the money for a down payment or the credit worthiness for the mortgage. Like really big, it feels like the obstacles are ginormous, right? Well, the manifestation isn't going to be suddenly you're pregnant or suddenly you have the deposit. But what's going to start happening is like whoosh, right in front of you is going to be a positive affirmation of your future. So it might look like all of a sudden the peace comes over you and like everything's going to be okay. Or it's without doing like 4 hours of meditation,
Mhm.
right? Or, you know, you're in a conversation with someone and they just happen to mention a story of someone similar in your situation having the positive experience you were looking for, right? Like it's not going to immediately, but like you will be given the breadcrumbs to let you know you're already on the path. You're already on the way. Like, do not worry. And the more you have freed up your brain to be, and all it is it's the intermediary. Like picture your soul being in your body and then like divine wisdom above you and then like your brain sort of like in the middle, right? It's the channel. Now that you've taken all that clutter out of it, all of a sudden the signal is going so cleanly that you're understanding your life in ways that you didn't understand it. And you're starting to access. Now, this is, I would not have even said this a year ago. This is specifically for this time. So if you've done this before and been like, well, like then I'd have those inklings, but the thing I wanted didn't happen. And, I don't know if I can trust God. I don't know if I can trust manifestation and all that stuff. All I would tell you is, just give it another shot. Just give it another shot. Things are working really differently. The architecture of our paradigm is actually shifting and
Yes, can
changing.
you tell us big picture for people who just need to understand why is it different? What path are we heading down that this architecture needs to change? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so um picture I mean, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I may have to like roll back and say this a different way because I'm just going to let them show me it. Picture that there's a divine design to the structure of being a human on the earth. I mean, we know that there's divine design in a tree, in the planet, in the water, right? We know that, but then the actual experience of being a human on the earth, that there's this design to it. And let me drill down. They're telling me drill down more. There's a divine design to, no, there is a design. They're saying not divine design. There is a design to being a nurse, to being a doctor, to being a healthcare worker, to being a teacher. There is a design to being a stockbroker. There's a design to being what you and I are, which is digital marketers in a spiritual space, right? And the way that those designs have come to be is that multiple people believed in that design, right? And we see how that works. A doctor, doctoring has been developed over years and
Yeah, there's
years
a
and years. And
trajectory, there's a path.
there's right. And so then there's absorbed practices, right? Our school systems how we're designed to build factory workers, right? Like they are designed to produce people who can operate in a factory setting, follow orders, look, I don't think we're building lots of little child robots. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it was the default, right? And it's being undone, right? That was one of the gifts that early people who were born early on, 50s, 60s, 70s with ADHD, with autism, they came ahead to build the teachers who would then be able to change our education system, right? Okay.
Amazing.
So these are created blueprints, co-created blueprints by us, right? And then similarly for the human experience, there's certain things. And within those things are some, what I'm going to call false gods. Our money system is a false god, right? There was a time and they're taking me there. They're saying you get to spend like 5 seconds here, Patty. When we were on the gold standard, when the money systems were created to alleviate the effort of people having to carry gold or other means on their physical backs, the original intention was not without merit. That's what they're allowing me to say, not without merit. But over time, it has become a power system, right? It was originally meant to alleviate effort, and it has now become a power system. As systems will happen, that will happen. The longer fear exists, the more people are going to try and compensate that fear with an external solution, which can be power, right? So these systems are not divine designs. They are blessed by the divine because the divine gave us free will and we are allowed to create these systems. But we have reached a point in the trajectory, in the pivot point of our planet, in the fulcrum of where we're headed. And it was already agreed upon. 2012 was it. We were heading there. We did the right things, even though it doesn't look like it, but we are headed for evolution, not extinction, right? So we're there. We're going there. So there are things that do not support where we're headed. And so they must come down. And as those come down, every part of your experience that was based on the security that provided is going to feel triggered. It's going to feel upset. It's going to feel, especially if you feel like you didn't quite make use of that, you're going to feel shame. You're going to feel doubt. You're going to feel all these things. But those things can come up and out because not only are you a participant in them today, you were in a past life a builder of them. And so that's where those karmic clearing are happening, right? This is the first time I'm ever saying this, by the way. This is completely coming through me. I am fascinated by it, so I hope it's
Amazing.
helping.
Yeah.
So as that happens, there's being made space for divine design. We have, as you surrender your doubt, as you surrender your fear, as you surrender your guilt, as you surrender the lower emotions, as you surrender your own belief that you are not enough, you give space for divine design to happen. You
Mhm.
say, what I thought was right for me may not be. I turn it over to you. Show me what's right for me. And this is not taking your own agency out of it. This is saying, if a roadblock is up, I'm not going to keep banging my head against it. I'm going to ask you to show me my way around this roadblock. And
Right.
from there, systems can be built at the etherical structure that can be built that will actually support where we're headed.
Do you think humanity, or let's just not forget about humanity, but individually, we need to reach a point where we're like looking at the destruction of things in our life and saying, oh, how was this for my greatest good? Right? How is this something that I needed so that I can really be in the path to a different design, a better path?
Holy shit. Before you start to speak, that was the next thing they wanted to say.
It is, yeah.
That if you, because they're saying people are going to be hungry at this point of this conversation to know, okay, what do I do? What do I do next? What do I do next? And here is your homework assignment. If you've been failing that, is take the thing that is blocked. Take the thing that has been removed from your life. Take the thing that has been, ripped from you, the dream, the expectation, the money, the opportunity, the whatever it is. Take one of them. You don't have to even take the hardest of them, right? Like let's say you're trying to get pregnant and that's like right there, right? No, you don't have to work with that one, right? Take something that's not quite as triggering as that, but something that's very important to you that you feel has been removed from your life.
Yeah. Yeah, like some sort of it's a bad job market or something like that, right? Like, oh, I'll
Yes,
never
but
get that dream
get
job.
specific. I
Okay.
want a job, and right now the job market feels like it's preventing me, right? Like I'm not getting the job. That's the thing. Like I'm not getting the job. Not these ghostland beliefs, but just that I'm not getting the job. And for the next 30 days, they're showing me you holding an image for what it is. So let's say it's I want a job, but it's not a job. Like, but I don't have the job. Let's say it's a building, like think of it like a Monopoly, like playing piece. Like just give it an image.
Hmm.
And you are going to send love into it with your mind's eye. And they're like, you don't even have to do this for a long period of time. Like, if you will just give it 30 seconds, but if you can give it a minute, if you can give it more than that, like the more you can, great. But even if you can just do 30 seconds, send love into it. And with this love that you're sending into it, you're surrendering every other thing that's not love. You're surrendering your fear, your disappointment, your anger, your rage, your hopelessness, whatever it is, you're surrendering all of that to a divine being that loves you.
What do you mean by send love to it? So for people who are maybe a little bit literal, it's like, okay, so I'm beaming love to this, but still
Yeah.
I'm feeling upset about it?
So I've done that exercise with people, not that specific one, but sending love. And so there's like I get that not having structure makes it feel hard, but it could be this. You could feel love in your heart center and sort of like, and they are showing me it going through your mind's eye. So like you kind of bring it up through your heart. Like let's say you see it as your heart chakra is emerald green or it's a green. So let's say you see it as green or pink's another color associated with love or red, whatever. And so like you see this color and you just send it into
Oh, so it
the,
doesn't need to be like you're processing, like you're like thinking about all the different ways where this could
no.
be better. You're literally just sending it the color green, or like how I do it is like I just love that part of me that wanted this job so badly because I wanted to feed my family. I wanted to all these things, just like loving that part of me that like really wanted this. Is that
Well,
okay?
this is a little bit different. This is a
Okay,
little
good
bit
to
different.
know.
You're actually loving the obstacle, the thing you believe is the obstacle. So you're sending love to the actual, so if it's like the missing job, it's like the building where you thought you'd be working, or let's say it's something less like, um, I'll be really transparent right now. My daughter is heading to college and she is the most well-rounded student. She has done so many things to make her resume amazing. And not for that reason. That's just the way she's built. And so she has a lot of opportunities. But we do not have a college fund
Mm,
that embraces all of those opportunities. And
yeah.
so she will need to take debt depending on which college she chooses. And so there has been a lot of shame and doubt and regret that I don't have that amount to give her. So then what it would be like a bag of money, right? Like, or
Mm.
maybe a college, like a fancy college,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. Probably for me, it would be the bag of money because she potentially is going to go to that school. It's just she's going to take the debt on herself, right? But for right now, so I take the bag of money and I'm just sending love, not with the intention of manifesting it,
Mhm.
but with knowing if anything was better for her path and my path, it would already be here. And so it's this extreme level of trust. And so I'm sending love. But when I think about that missing money, shame is going to come up, doubt's going to
Right.
come up. I
Right.
let those float up, right? Like little balloons up to God to deal with, up to the creator, whoever you talk to. Maybe you don't even know if there's anyone out there. Fine, send it to space, whatever.
Right.
For 30 days, you just send that love. And they're saying, we promise you an answer will have come by the end of those 30 days.
Wow.
That will help you understand its value. It might look like you just don't care about it anymore. It might mean you've forgiven yourself. Like I was just listening to a podcast about estranged siblings and like the pain of having the estrangement, right? Maybe by the end of it, the sibling contacts you. By the end of it, you realize you're just not meant to be a part of this life anymore, right? Maybe it's just self-forgiveness, forgiveness of other, whatever it is. You don't hold on to an expectation of what's going to be there for you at the end of the 30 days. Just understand that that's the process of receiving the limitation as a gift.
Is there a reason why it's 30 days? Do you know?
Um, Yeah, they're like on your planet, in your design, it's a number that you're very comfortable with.
I love that. So yeah, it's 30 days, everyone, and it really only takes maybe a minute for you to really send this
They
all to
said
them.
start with 30 seconds. 30 seconds is
I love that.
sufficient. And then you do, and they're also saying, and please honor that what is right for you is right for you and not lean into the achievement energy of your planet that would encourage you that 5 minutes is better than 1 minute. We will tell you that the amount of time that feels good for you is the amount of time that feels good for you and leave it there. But we do leave you with a baseline of 30 seconds. Do not go below that.
I love that, Patty. And I was like really tearing up when and thank you for sharing that so vulnerably because with the moment you said that, I just got hit by all of this energy of, you and your husband just like giving so much to give to your children. And then the fact that you don't have that college fund set up, it felt very aligned to your daughter and it felt very much like her path. But of course, as the awesome mom that you are, there's like so much of your emotional stuff that comes with it, but it really is the best thing for her path, and especially like sending love to it. And I ask all of our audience, send love to Patty's daughter's college fund, right? Like why not just like send love and it's like it becomes revealed to you, like it became revealed to me instantly, right? All of the things that we put on ourselves to have and to achieve for other people who we're responsible for. And it's like, oh, if we just kind of let go of that, then the design can work. Your daughter and you pick that design, and it can work to the best of its ability if we just calm down. If we stop forcing our worry and shame
Get
and
out of the
personal
way
stuff.
because everything about that college fund not being big enough to encompass all of the schools that she was invited to attend is the ghost lands. It's my expectation that her future is going to be uh, less than because of that lack. And I
Wow.
was already given the message like early on, and this is probably a good example too for you, for the audience. So I was given the answer. We got I got the reality of this and it hit hard and I did the work on it and I cleaned up like probably 80% of it. And I can do that at this point, usually within a day, even like really hard things, I can clean them. But I've been doing this work for a really long time, including having taken a sabbatical for a year where I had no identity. And that, kind of relieved me of a lot of these beliefs about what make me good. But I got the message really quickly. Like she has very important work to do in the world, and some of it will require overcoming very large money obstacles. And she must have this skill today so that she can do what she is meant to do. And like I had gotten the message. So for the audience, I will tell you, and I have lost that message like at least 6 times through this journey, at least, if not more.
And then you just come back.
And then you do the work. Well, now I'll do this new assignment. I was not given this assignment. This all came, and this was what Anna and I were talking before we started, that it's not, we are now in a point where we are starting to co-create quite quickly with others. And this interview was going to be co-created, not just with Anna and I, but you who are listening long after we created this, were already part of the design of this. And so you already called through that assignment through us. So,
Ooh.
yes.
And I just want to kind of summarize the brilliance that you shared with us to something that's kind of bite-sized. And please correct me if I'm wrong, which is if we just took the work to look at the things that we're very upset about right now, right? That's some causing us some friction or bringing up fear for a future or whatever, or making us long for the days when we had the thing. If we just take a moment to take just one of those items and just send love to the obstacle, right? Like I lost my job, like just send love to that. I want this thing, it's not happening, send love to that. If we just do that, that's all we need to do to make room for the new design in our life. That's all we need to do to open up for the blessing of something that is way better than the thing that we really wanted so bad. Right. And it might look different than, we use the example of, someone who's like trying to get pregnant or someone who really, and it might look different than you getting pregnant, but you will know because you did the work of letting go. It will feel so much better to you. It'll feel natural. It'll feel like the next best, it'll just feel right, and that's the stuff that we can't figure out in our head. But is that correct? We just need to kind of love an obstacle and then, you know, do that more. And that's all we need to do.
Yeah, they're saying there is one, there are many of you who are listening that will then be thinking the thought, but what about all of these other situations that require our help? All these other people that require our help. Are we just supposed to worry about ourselves and then too bad to everyone else?
Yeah,
And
because
we
there are people
tell,
actually being kidnapped by ICE, right? We know this.
so
Yeah.
the answer is absolutely not. We do not invoke or advocate for looking away. We want you to honor the fact that social media and normal media is not your way to see, but we do wish you to open your eyes and see and help where you can help. Unfortunately, larger media gives you the burden of feeling like you're supposed to be helping without the tools to actually help. And so we say help where you can help. Helping where you can help builds the energy of strength and sovereignty and agency and power within you. And so help where you can help.
Mm. Help where you can help. And I do want to respect your time and wrap
Yep.
this up, but we could talk forever.
We
But
could.
I feel like there are a lot of people who are activists, and in the past, they've kind of poured out of themselves to give to a cause that maybe that cause like was a great cause. Maybe the structure itself, like there was some issues with that. And I think a lot of nonprofits and there's an underlying structure of like fighting the system, and there's an underlying structure of like injustice, and that's what we're fighting against. Do you feel like work is being done to adjust those designs or to make those designs better for people who are like, wait, but like public radio and PBS and all that, it's being defunded now. Where are kids gonna learn? Like, what do you think about that, Patty?
So one thing I was just shown is equity is within the divine systems. Equity is a basis of divine systems. And so if within even a positive organization that's doing good, there is inequity, which would look like workers giving more than they have to give, that along with everything else must dissipate and balance needs to be brought. Um,
That's so good, guys, because every person that I know who has worked for a nonprofit has burnt out continuously, continuously. Yeah.
yeah, and this, believe me, I bow personally to the goodness of every worker that has done good in this world, right? I bow to that. I bow to that love you have done. If you hear anything in these words that there is something wrong with it, it is only in that you need to understand that your own equity, your own balance, your own wholeness is desired by the divine. That is it. And if you believe that is not the case, then that is a shift. And for you, if you are one of those workers, for you, the work may look more like taking the weight off your shoulder and handing it to the people next to you that you don't believe are going to come through, and
What?
having positive belief in humanity.
So that's why you send love to the people who you don't think would come through.
Well, I would say it would be like for that person, their little monopoly piece might look like a slacker, or it might look like a greedy person or a selfish person or whatever that is, right? And then you send love into that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We need to do a whole separate talk just for teachers and healthcare workers. And I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can we go a little bit longer? Because there is
Yes.
actually something coming through
Yes.
that I want to share. So, I have close relationships with some of the teachers that handle, I forget what the correct term is, but it used to be called special ed teachers.
IEP.
Right. The IEP is the document that allows for the child to get their special
Yeah.
services. And so then there's the department, right,
Right.
that kind of brings us, right? And so the IEP gets reviewed twice a year with the parents and the teachers and some of the administrator. And they are incredibly difficult meetings, understandably. And so one of my friends, when they know they're going into a difficult meeting, they ask me to do my thing. And so what my thing is, and so if you're sitting here listening and you're like, I'm not the teacher, I'm not the this, I'm not, can I help in some way? This is what I do. So I first get into a clean space of wholeness, right? Not depletion, wholeness, whatever that looks like for you. Meaning, if you're depleted, then don't be doing this. Or if you find yourself sending your own energy out of your body when I describe this, don't do this. Just visualize it. And what I do is I run my white light to the heavens and I call angel energy, which is different than guides, guardians, helpful loved ones, or ancestors. So I call angel energy, which is pure love. And then I send the angels into the room that the meeting is going to happen. And I ask them to sweep the room with love. And then I ask them to now go. And sometimes they tell me about like the meeting's about to happen like in like minutes. And I go back in time, go to each person that's going to be in the room, sweep them with love. Now sweep the rooms they're going to sleep in and give them, I'm tearing up even
I
saying
know,
it.
we'll cry forever now.
Give them a good night's sleep. Now find an angel for each of them, an earth angel, and bring one person into their life to smile at them, to forgive them, to tell them they're worthy, to remind them that they're whole. And then within that energy, bring everyone into the room at their highest level. And then when the meeting is done, please bless every person that was in the room ×3 for any love they put into that room. Let it come back to them ×3. And she said, like, whenever I do that, she said it goes completely differently, right?
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
and
But
that
to
was
be fair,
actually a
she could
process,
do it for herself too, right? We can all do this for ourselves too.
of
Yeah.
course, of
Yeah. It's
course.
just way more awesome having Patty do it for you.
It feels special when I do it, right? It feels like I have some magic powers. I don't, because that's where, like I always tell people, you can't break someone else's free will. So meaning you can't want someone to make a better decision for themselves than they make. So I can't will a parent to show up with more respect for that teacher or their kid, right? I can't will a kid to behave differently. But bringing conditions to an environment that allow people to operate at their highest level is something we can do without violating anyone's free will, because all we're doing is we're removing obstacles to people behaving at their highest level.
It's so funny that you said that because just this morning when I was in the car with my kid, I was like, how can I make my husband do something? How can I make my, and I came to a similar conclusion, which is, if I just bring love and understanding, and I'm going to borrow what you said for, couples therapy, like why not sweep that room full of love when you're talking about kind of like a difficult topic, right? And you're butting heads. Because when you think about it, we talk about this in terms of children and child development all the time. If given the optimal conditions, all kids would thrive, right? And so why not energetically set yourself up, people that you love up, people who you think need some love right now in the world? It's just an energetic thing using your will, right? Why not set the environment up with love, which is the optimal environment, and then whatever is best for you and for them will come through. Do you ever notice that maybe like there's a little bit of a detox period? Like there's so much love in this room, like, and it does it like make stuff come up, do you think? Or no, have you not noticed
I
that?
don't know, like I'm not in those rooms, so like I don't know what does happen. I really don't. Yeah, they're also showing me something else I do to share it. So I'm just going to share a different
Please.
version of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so in the country you and I reside in, there is a leader that some people have problems with. And that particular leader, there's a number of them, but this particular leader, you know,
Is he orange?
there's no descriptions, but in this case, this leader from me as having, from my psychology background, it's very easy for me to see the childhood wounds that are in operation, right? And everyone is doing the very best they can with what they have. This is a fundamental belief that one of my favorite psychology professors drilled into me. It's based on Alfred Adler's theory on human condition, is that every single person is doing the very best they can with what they have. And I've always believed if you can start from that premise, it removes a lot of the junk from the conversation, right? And so I have it's not even a meditation. It's just I find myself called to do it. And I sit in his office with him every once in a while. And I just tell him he's wonderful. And I see him and he's perfect. And then he tells me he's the greatest and he's done the best thing ever and that he's done this and this. And I say, maybe you haven't, but it doesn't matter to me because I love you just the way you are, and you are so perfect. And I love you, and I see you, and I'm okay if you make mistakes. I love you so much. I love you so much. And then he does it again. And he was like, wait, though. You have to hear the latest thing I've done. And like he does that. And I say, oh, that sounds very good. But that doesn't matter to me because I see you and I love you and you're perfect just the way you are. And you don't have to do anything else to make me proud. And I am so proud of you for the person that you are. And I know you're doing the very best job you can. And I know you're scared and it's okay that you're scared. And I love you.
You
And
know,
we can
when
do that. Yeah.
when you said that our leader responded, as almost like for me, I saw a child saying, I did awesome things. I did this and this and this and this. It's like it hits totally differently, than a leader of a nation or something, but
Mhm.
tell us why you do that. Tell us the impact of that.
I don't know. All of a sudden, because one thing for me is so one of my gifts that sort of opened up later on is I'm going to call them shamanic gifts, but I have great respect for shamans that because shamans are truly part of a particular culture and they become shamans based on their community deciding that they're shamans. So I don't claim any of that. But there's certain journeying that happens that are shamanic gifts. There are certain things that I was never trained in. I started working with a mentor and I was telling her some of the experiences I was having. And she said, "You're journeying. That's actually journeying." So we did do some like development around it, but I don't practice it outside my own experience, generally speaking. But sometimes I'll be just taken on a journey
Yeah.
and just find myself doing it. I don't know why, but I do think it's something that if you're seeing someone behave that is aligned with the old power structures, and you find that them operating from that experience is doing damage in your community, in your house, in the world at large, whatever it is, and you can come back to the place of everyone's doing the very best they can with what they have. And then you can just send them love in whatever way is possible for you. Even if it's just for a nanosecond to hold that possibility that they're not out to cause harm and hurt from this place of power, but actually from a place of weakness. You open up space
Oh, yeah.
for design, for changes in the design.
And like it or not, we all created this. We all have a connection to all of the people in our life who we love and all the people in our life who we don't love and we feel like are actively causing us pain. And if we can find that, like, bring in that divine energy of love, there's, I think, a part of our contract, right? Like in the Akashic records, or there's part of this agreement where we have with this difficult energy that healed. And it completes a cycle. And maybe it completes a karmic cycle, but it completes like lots of cycles, right? And the recipient of the blessing is really you. They will also receive it. And I think actually for people, and I'm not saying that this person is miserable or whatever, but for people who are actively kind of miserable, sometimes sending them love like could feel bad for them. And for us
Yeah.
who are petty, it could be but you can't send it to cause them harm, obviously. But it's like sending love, just knowing that, oh, they're just gonna have so many people smiling at them today, and it's gonna piss them off. Like that kind of, is a little bit gratifying. But at the end of the day, obviously, it helps them on whatever highest path they choose. So I think that is such a profound. I've never like done an exercise where I like really used to see them as this kid. It's like, I did such a good job. Because you're right. Like we're all just little kids like wanting to do a good job. That's really at the end of the day, like who we are to our core. That's so brilliant, Patty.
And I think also to an extent, in a giant game of sibling rivalry with the divine parent. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Um, any final words for people who have listened, cried with us, laughed with us,
Mhm.
and just moved through this whole journey? You've given us so much. And for that, I am so grateful. And I know people are so grateful. And at the same time, like, you're part of us and we're all on this path, right? To this
Yeah.
new design. Um, any final words for us as we move towards this new design?
No, I think, understanding there's no one with more or less power to affect this. There's no one with more or less ability, right? Like sometimes I think when people see me channel or get messages, they're like, oh, my gift is somehow at a higher level than their gift, but it's not. Like it's not, it's just access points, right? Like so like as much as you can get rid of the belief in levels, that's our work. And if you don't mind, I'd like to offer a gift
Yes,
to the
please.
audience that it will put you on my list. So feel free to unsubscribe, but I do think this is important. It's a prayer I do every morning. It's quite long, don't feel like you have to do the whole prayer, but it's a prayer of clearing and protection. So if you want to know what I do in the morning every day to connect to my team and then protect my energy, because the thing is, there is value in putting a protection around yourself so that, like, the little crap that flies off people that are still in their work doesn't stick on you when it goes, into the ground, right? So if you want that, go to pattylennon.com/prayer. Um,
Beautiful. And we'll put that in the show notes too, but that's
yeah.
beautiful. I think we all need that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long one though. So like modify it. Throw it into ChatGPT and be like, this crazy bitch that I was listening to felt like she had some wisdom, but like this thing is like 5 minutes long. Can you
What's the
make it like
origin of that
one?
prayer? I'm all
Huh?
for that. Like, what's the origin of it? Do you mind sharing?
I downloaded it. Yeah, so it started out just a very it started out with just the first like divine shower in the morning to clear away the stuff in the ball of light. But then I found myself just like pulling in helpers and needing specificity. And yeah, it just came from my heart. It wasn't, yeah, anything of, I'm
Mm.
sure I downloaded it to a certain extent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet. I can't wait to actually feel the energy of it. So thank you for that, Patty. And I suggest you all go check it out because also you do want to be on Patty's list because she sends out really, really good emails that sometimes makes you cry a little bit. Patty, I don't want to push it. Do you have time to answer a bonus question?
Sure.
So can you give us an idea of, this new design that we're moving to, maybe so we can have a little bit of hope, just a little bit.
Hmm. So the long, 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 long term destination is something along what we've been told was the Atlantean era when it was at its peak, or the Lemurian era when it was at its peak, from the standpoint of, equity. Because my understanding of both those societies was, well, my understanding of the Atlantean society is that, but then it got corrupted. And that was the end of that. And Lemurian, I don't know if it got corrupted or it just decided to like drown itself to avoid like where the earth was headed or what it was. But at where we're headed is to a place where equity is the actual experience of humanity.
Interesting.
I don't think that's happening in our lifetime. I will be clear about that. In the short term, though, what is possible in the next 2 years is for you to step out of the fear paradigm and like be in a completely different experience of this planet.
In 2 years, we could have a completely different experience.
It could happen this year, but like that's what's available between 2025 and 2026 based on the work you do around your fear and shame, is you could literally be like engaging the world and like understanding why everyone's saying and doing the things they're doing, and also be like, okay, but I'm not going to tune into that channel anymore. I'm going to be in this channel over here. It over in this channel is going to be a place of lack of attachment and flow and
Mm-hmm.
real peace and
Hmm.
a lot of freedom from pursuing goals that you never really gave a shit about.
Yeah. So is that what, when people talk about the fifth dimension, do you feel like that's what that is? We're walking into a place where, you're just in flow, you just trust, you do what's in front of you, you kind of let go of the fear and you're kind of walking through life a little bit more naked, it feels like, you know?
I mean, I always roll my eyes on the fifth dimension stuff because to me, fifth dimension shit feels like, like it was like for lack of a better word, like all the investment bankers start wearing like fleece vests, like a few years ago or 10 years ago or whenever they started doing that. And it's a bro move, it indicates something. And to me, like fifth dimension was always like a term that certain spiritual people like threw around to like indicate like I'm on a different level. I mean, I don't think so. I actually think it's being here in love. Like it's actually getting to experience the best of.
Wow. That's really, that's really amazing. So we're being primed and assisted to get rid of stuff that is an illusion, to get rid of stuff that really was not for our best interest anyway, to get rid of the prisons, really. Like, and when you said prisons, I was like, oh, I have so many prisons in my life. So we are primed. We're basically given the tools, especially thanks to you, to move out of the prison and really see the world honestly for what it really is, right? Which is there's love everywhere. And as someone who, when people were like, oh, God is love, and I was like, what are you talking about? Literally, what are you talking about? But now, as I'm kind of like allowing myself to actually use love more and to love myself more, I can kind of see that there's something here, about this whole love thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patty.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right, guys, go check out Patty. Thanks for watching. Put some comments up if you have any questions. Maybe we'll answer them. Bye, guys.